So the Wizards lost to the Bulls again. They're now 0-5. Before the Bulls game, their offense and their defense was bad. 23rd in offensive rating, 21st in defensive. We all expected them to not be too good on defense. Doesn't mean they shouldn't be criticized for it, but we're not really surprised by that one. But the offense being as rough as it was before this Bulls game, they scored quite a few points in the Bulls game. There's a chance the advanced stats are going to get a little different, but still, they were not scoring efficiently based on just looking at the roster. I mean, you figure Westbrook having more shooting now around him. Beal is awesome. Bertans, one of the best shooters in the league a year ago. Thomas Bryant quietly becoming one of the better center shooters. And, it just hasn't totally clicked. Now, for all that's worth, they have not been getting killed in any of these games, so if you want to take that for whatever it's worth. Anyway, the first thing to make note of is that this is a Scott Brooks coach team, and Scott Brooks teams don't really have an offense. It's mainly a lot of improv, a lot of basic pick and rolls with not much creativity to them in terms of the guy setting the screen or action before the screen. There's not really a lot there. And in fact, in all the minutes that I've watched of the Wizards, there's only been one play that I thought was pretty cool, which was when they had Westbrook throw it to Thomas Bryant in the corner. Not the corner, more like the left side of the top of the key. And Beal cut from, I guess, like he was coming from like half court or whatever it was. And it resulted in like a pretty good shot. And it was a bit of an actual play where it was like, oh, okay, that was something a little different. Besides that, I mean, you watch the fourth quarter of the Magic game, every single possession, it's Bradley Beal. Can you please bail us out with a pick and roll or an isolation? And when you combine that with Rui, who has not been able to play until this Bulls game, on top of Bertans not shooting amazing from outside, and Westbrook missing quite a few shots, and that's what you get. Now, I do want to talk about Westbrook. So before this Bulls game, he was one of the few guys on the team who had a positive net rating. So, I mean, if you want to look at strictly the math, you can say Westbrook hasn't been the problem. At the same time, we're so early into the season that lineup data can be swayed by a 4-minute stretch in a second quarter of any of the games played so far. So I don't know what to make of that, but I do know what to make of Westbrook's individual performance, which is, to be fair, he made his jumpers in this Bulls game, but Westbrook has taken a lot of jump shots, and it has not been good. I mean, I get it. I like to give Westbrook a little bit of a break because he really does fill the stat sheet. I mean, he's, triple doubles, and that stuff matters, even if sometimes it has become a little bit of a meme. But missed shots are missed shots, and efficiency matters, and Westbrook is currently shooting, well, not currently, before the Bulls game, he was shooting 38% on 42 jump shots attempted this season. He was 1 for 10 from 3, he was 2 for 10 from 13-foot range. He was actually very good on long twos going into the Bulls game, so that's helped it out a little bit. But it's that plus the lack of stuff at the rim. I mean, before the Bulls game, Westbrook only had 10 shots at the basket, and he was only attempting 3.5 free throws a game. So that's not great. And when you watch these games, he's just so quick to go to these jump shots. I mean, he was always a little too quick to go to some mid-rangers, but it's going a little too far this season. I mean, he's only attempting 17% of his shots at the rim. Now, if we want to just bash on Scott Brooks, we can say the spacing isn't good enough. We can say that if the only play you run is pick and roll, then teams are going to do a better job of guarding that sort of thing. We can also say Westbrook right now just can't beat guys off the dribble. He can't get to the rim. They've also tried these Westbrook post-ups, which have been kind of weird. The points per possession on those is 0.5, which is not good. But maybe those have some potential if the idea is you run them with Beal and Bertans out there, and then both of them are moving off the ball, and perhaps you even have Rui out there, who they have back now, of course, cutting to the basket. I think there's some potential with those, but I think they need to be used in certain situations. Granted, they're only running about 3 a game, according to NBA.com, but I have noticed it. And every time I've been like, what is happening right now? Besides Westbrook, I mean, with Beal has missed some threes, but besides that, he's been pretty alright. He still has like a 57% true shooting while not making his threes. He's shooting a crap ton of free throws. He's just barreling his way to the basket. I mean, all those pick and rolls they're running for him, while I think it makes their offense really basic, it has also allowed him to get downhill quite a bit more. As far as off-ball stuff, Beal has not done too much. I mean, the most that he does is like a half floppy set, where he starts it not even like deep in the corner, but maybe closer to the elbow and gets like one or two off-ball screens and then it goes to the top of the key. Like, it's not even enough room for him to be in a real sprint. So defenders are not too far away from him by the time he catches it. There could be a lot more variety. I mean, I think Beal, if you've got him setting screens off the ball and really moving around, it could open up this offense a bit more. The other things to make note of are Bertans is not shooting amazing right now. He's shooting 35%. You've got Ish Smith, who teams are not really guarding like that. They're not really guarding Troy Brown or Raul Neto, and they have been rolling with some three-guard lineups, and there's just a lot of moments where this team doesn't have guys who can really shoot out there. I think there is a lineup in there where it's Westbrook and Beal and Bertans that can score some points. And if I can contradict myself real quick on the lineup data stuff, Westbrook, Bertans, and Beal have played, before the Bulls game, again, about 36 minutes together this season. Their offensive rating is amazing. Their defensive rating is also bad in those lineups, but they're almost basically even. And I would think that if you play those three out there with Denny and, let's say, Robin Lopez, who is, I guess, one of the better defensive players in this team, maybe that's a balanced lineup. I mean, there's also Isaac Bonga, who they haven't used too much, but his percentages are really good, and he's a pretty big dude. You know, just guys who are not as concerned about taking a bunch of shots. He could end up being kind of big for this team. And for what it's worth, a lot of their positive lineup numbers come with Isaac Bonga on the floor. Again, this was before the Bulls game. Now, again, lineup numbers this early in the season, probably take them with a grain of salt, I guess. Let's talk about Denny, who has managed to do pretty okay while not being featured in the offense too much. So far, his three-point shooting has been very good. He's shooting like over 50% from three right now on 3 a game. He shot well in the preseason. His percentages overseas were not good, but his form was always good. So perhaps it's just finally swinging in the right direction. Maybe he's just on a hot streak, but so far he's shooting the ball well. That being said, he's too much of a spot shooter right now. I mean, Denny's main thing was his playmaking, and he still managed to be at like 2.5 assists a game, but I mean, he's getting 40 touches a game. He holds the ball on average 1 second. Like 1.8 seconds, if you will. But he's getting the ball less than Ish Smith. He's getting it way less than Beal and Westbrook, which we all expected to happen, but Denny can do more. I mean, the guy's proven he can run pick and roll, not against every team in every situation, but he can run pick and roll against, a good chunk of the league. He can bring it up in transition. He can be a bit of a point forward for you. And when you watch these games, it's the Scott Brooks give the ball to Westbrook and Beal and just hope for the best thing, is resulting in Denny standing in the corner watching things happen a lot of the time. And I will acknowledge that I say this as Westbrook is averaging 12 assists a game at the moment. And Denny has been the recipient of that a bit. He has had quite a few open catch-and-shoot threes, and again, he's making them, so that's good. But I think he can do more. Anyway, if we think about their defense a little bit more, I mean, there are some guys here who could maybe help him defensively. There is Robin Lopez, who, I mean, he's still all right. You got Bonga, who is probably more of a defensive player than an offensive one, even if his shots have gone in so far. There is Denny. And besides that, you're just kind of hoping for the best. I mean, looking at some of their plays, like in this Bulls game, Levine's coming off of pin downs, and there's not much difficulty with him just getting the ball, rising up for a shot. There was a play where Otto Porter set a screen for Levine, and the Wizards had this moment of like, what do we do? Do we switch? Do we trap? Like, what's going on? I don't know, man. It should be said they are the worst, again, before the Bulls game, they were the worst fouling team in the league. They led the league in fouls. Some of that could just be intentional fouls this early in the season. But yeah, man, they're having a tough time. And it'll be interesting to see the route they choose to go with trying to make this work. Are they going to go all offense? Are they going to try to mix it up with offense and defense? My guess with Scott Brooks is he's just going to try to mix up the two. So we'll see with the lineups they use and all that. But the other thing to talk about with the Wizards, and this has already been brought up a bit, is that their schedule gets really rough pretty fast. They have the T-Wolves tomorrow, and then after that it's the Nets, the Sixers, Celtics, Heat, Suns, and the Jazz. There's not a single easy game in there. Now, they'll probably win at least one of those games just because, I mean, come on, they have to win a game eventually. But that's tough. And, then they get a little bit of a break. It's the Pistons, and they get the Cavs back-to-back, although suddenly the Cavs are good. And, it could get rough, is the point being. The Wizards' opportunity to get some wins was early in the season here. They had the Bulls twice. They had the Magic twice. Granted, Magic are good. They also played the Wizards twice, to be fair. But, yeah, man, it could get ugly. And as far as options that this team has, I mean, number one, there's just hoping Bradley Beal stays happy. I mean, that's the obvious one. Besides that, I mean, they already gave up a first-round pick. It got protections on it for Westbrook. And, so far, I'm looking wrong on the Westbrook will be better than John Wall thing. Granted, we haven't really seen John Wall in the regular season yet, but, I mean, Westbrook just hasn't been too great. And, I mean, we'll see if Beal wants out, if they don't end up turning this around. But, I mean, as far as the Westbrook contract is concerned, they're probably stuck with it. They were already stuck with the John Wall contract, so, I mean, they were going to be stuck with a big contract anyway, but it's still not great. So, yeah, man, the Wizards, they got to figure this out pretty fast. There's a chance this could get really ugly, and, I mean, with Bradley Beal and his situation, well, we all know the route that could go.